let's just start with the schools and phones legislation applying statewide. Is it your understanding that that would only be public schools? And I guess, how do you feel about that in conversations you've had with school districts?
So honestly, I haven't seen the legislation. I don't know for sure what that entails. I look forward to talking with the governor about that. What it sounded to me like was a ban on cell phones being accessible except for emergencies during instructional time, and I think most districts can get on board with that. I like the idea of giving them some ownership so that they can come in and make those local decisions that make the most sense for implementation for their districts, for their parents, for their kids, their families, and I think that I really look forward to getting to work and working with the governor on how best to make that happen.
Is this the year for hands-free?
It's been the year for hands-free in the Senate for several years. It sounds like the governor is really moving forward with that. I think you'll see some work on that. We were talking earlier today. We have a bill already in the Senate. We just assigned that to committee today, and I look forward to working with the governor to make it happen.
You mentioned that it's been done in the Senate before. How significant is it to hear from the governor and the condition the state address?
You know, I think the governor coming out with it brings it to the forefront. You know, I think it's important that we look at the data, and the data say that distracted driving takes lives, and that's not my opinion. It's not the governor's opinion. It's reality, and I look forward to the House coming on board and seeing where we can go with that, and making that reality of life-saving measures for families in Iowa a reality.
I don't think it was in her speech, but the governor's staff told us she plans to propose the paid parental leave policy for state employees that she's introduced the last 2 years. 4 weeks of time for mothers who are state employees, 1 week for fathers. What do you think the odds are of that moving forward in the Senate this year?
I haven't seen legislation. I know she's introduced it in the past. She didn't speak to it. I'm not going to dive in on odds on something that we don't even have a bill on.
What do you think of the governor taking the Medicaid work requirements into her own hands? She said she's going to ask the Trump administration herself.
Hey, I was on board with it when we spoke yesterday. I'm still on board with it today. I think, as I said yesterday, work has value, has intrinsic value. It creates a sense of worth, and I think Iowans deserve that sense of worth, and I'm happy to let her lead on that.
How do you feel?
Go ahead.
How do you feel about the Medicaid reimbursement proposal about raising the rates for some physicians, compensating midwives better, doula coverage? Do you have thoughts on that?
If I'm going to say I'm pro-life, if we as a caucus are going to say we're pro-life, if we as Republicans in Iowa are going to say we're pro-life, I think it behooves us to support women and children once the children are born. I think that only makes sense. Without seeing a proposal, I don't want to take any stand on what that looks like. I have not seen a proposal, and I think it would be irresponsible of me to speak to whether or not it'd be something we could take up.
Were you expecting to see the governor have a property tax proposal tonight, or were you just coming into this knowing that it would be spearheaded by both of the caucuses going forward?
I had no idea whether the governor would have a full-fledged proposal. She clearly spoke to it, and I think that is enough of a push for us to really get in and get to work. I know that our caucus is working, and we will plan to come out with a proposal soon. I'm under the impression that our Ways and Means Chair is working with the House Ways and Means Chair, and hopefully we can have a bill that makes sense for Iowans and makes sense for local government, and we can move forward with that.
The past couple of years, the governor has proposed an over-the-counter birth control proposal. That's passed out of the Senate but has died in the House before. She didn't bring it up this time around. Is it something the Senate is still willing to put forward this year?
Well, I mean, there's some federal changes that have allowed for that to a small degree. I think the Senate would still be supportive of that. I can't speak for the House.
What's your reaction to the governor's proposal regarding cancer research and $1 million kind of seed funding to get that going?
I have spoken with folks from the University of Iowa and understand the need for that. I think we do need to know the why. I look forward to working with Senator Costello to see if that can be included in part of that HHS budget. I think it's valuable to Iowans, and I think it's valuable to the University of Iowa to have a good start to get moving in the right direction.
Thoughts on the proposal to draw down federal funding to create hundreds of new medical residency slots in the state?
You know, if there are federal dollars available to do that, why would we not do it here in Iowa? We have a shortage in every area. Why not do it in Iowa? If our partners in the system, those teaching hospitals, can manage that, I think it's a great idea.
There was also a lot on energy and infrastructure. Thoughts on some of the things the governor brought up on that? Generally about utilities. I know there's
again, not having seen a bill, I don't have that bill before me, so a little plausible deniability with what's included there. But a strong energy policy, a secure grid, a reliable sources, those are all great for Iowa's economy. And I'm gonna be behind whatever supports us maintaining a stable and secure grid and keeps prices low for ratepayers.
Are the unemployment tax cuts a priority for Senate Republicans this year?
Are they a priority? It hasn't been something we've discussed. I know the bill is there. I know the governor would like to see it happen. I look forward to working with her in whatever ways we can. Clearly, when we're so much higher than our surrounding states, we need to have to take a solid look at what we're doing in that. I don't know what a final product will look like, but I'm happy to work with her and I'll direct her to our workforce chair to make sure that happens.
The governor talked about some disaster recovery efforts. What do you think of her proposals, or are there any other role the legislature should play?
You know, touch is pretty close to home for me. Greenfield is in my district, and so I saw that devastation firsthand the evening after it happened, and then the following morning after the sun came up, and I've seen it over and over again for the last several months as they've really worked to rebuild. Greenfield has done a great job, and the folks in Greenfield have stepped up. They need our help from the outside in. Iowans don't let fellow Iowans suffer without coming into their rescue. And so I support the governor's efforts to make sure that we're dealing with those disaster responses in a responsible and sustainable way.
What about the preschool and kind of childcare provider proposals? The governor really wants to incentivize them to kind of integrate and you know, make that child's day sort of seamless from one place to the next.
Sure. And first, I've heard of this proposal. I know we had been working on something that would just expand our 4-year-old preschool, drawing it down into some of those lower ages. I'm happy to see what comes from those conversations between the legislature and the governor's office. Childcare is a priority for all of us. We have workforce issues, and we want Iowa families to feel safe and secure that their kids are being cared for appropriately. And so I look forward to working with our office in making that happen.
And on that, the governor seems to think that this fund incentivizing a partnership between preschool providers and childcare centers is the answer on kind of creating more access to full-day preschool. Is there anything legislatively outside of the state fund that could help access to full-day preschool? Would you like to see anything in addition to what the governor's proposed?
I would like to see the governor's proposal before I would say I want to see something in addition. I'll just state that I think Iowa families deserve to have some continuity of care, and whether that's a full-day preschool or whether that's a partnership with private providers, you know, I think both can work, and it depends on the community which works best. So I think however we go about that, I want a continuity of care for families so that they feel comfortable and secure in their kids' care.
DOGE task force, were you expecting that, and do you
Wasn't expecting it, but it wasn't surprising, right? We've been as she said, we did Doge before Doge was cool. We've already saved over $200 million for Iowa taxpayers just by cutting red tape and streamlining our bureaucracy. I am excited to see how we can do that in the local government arena as well, so that if there's red tape that the state's causing local governments that makes them more expensive, well, let's figure it out, let's fix it, and let's cut some of those costs for property taxpayers, as in the same way we have for all income taxpayers in the state of Iowa. I think it's a great idea to find waste, fraud, inefficiency in all forms of government, and so hey, I'm on board with it.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
All right.